because many of the stories, in one way or another, are linked to this one concept. It is departicipation, all right? That is the act of creating conditions where it is more difficult for you as the ordinary citizen to get your day in court, day anywhere, to be heard and have your grievances redressed. And the way you get rid of getting your grievances redressed is to get some little old good departicipation going. And as I said, two people who were big on departicipation in government were Lenin and, I'm sad to say, Teddy Roosevelt. All right, now, on to the first part. YTN, Yankee T News. Remember, like, subscribe, donate, and buy our stuff. We're still working on building up the store. And don't forget the Continental Tribune, the CTLTribune.com. Sally Fink's effort, and she's definitely stepping up to the plate. They're putting out more stories, and it's going to get interesting. All right, first let me get through the quickies. Corruption and fear rules Arizona. All right, we know that Saturday the judge ruled against Kari Lake. Everybody's upset, including me. And when you try to get to the bottom of what's going on here, this wasn't about the evidence, okay, which was, as far as many of us was concerned, overwhelming. This was about the judge being corrupted and having fear put into him, causing him to rule the way he did. That is my theory of the case. Meantime, China, wow, I got to tell you, where's this coming from? Who would have thought that Joe Biden's administration would be the one that actually puts the hammer down on China? Remember back in September about the trade restrictions concerning semiconductors? Well, now we got a little something else going here. You're going to love this. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Okay, so it's good, as they put it, through a series of executive orders. The first was concerning limiting access to American semiconductor technology in China. The second now is going to be to exert and create, oh, don't you just love this, create new federal authority to regulate U.S. investments in China. Wall Street will not be happy. So we're going to want to follow this one closely. But the consequences should be clear. If you're talking about limiting the ability to invest in China, part one, what happens to the people who are already there, okay? And part two, the ones who are expecting to profit from China, what are they going to do now as a result of this? Anyway, this is just the second step. The point is that the discussion about China as an existential threat has been growing, and there's a realization we have to do something about it, all right? So there you go. All right, moving on. The next quickie. The thing about Brazil. Can anybody think of anything they've heard in the news about Brazil lately? I'd say there's a good chance you have not. And this is why. Okay? So my good buddy, Matthew Tiermond, is about the only person who's making the effort to stay close to what's happening in Brazil. What the press is not telling you is that there's still tens of millions of people in the streets, in the parks, protesting the election and fighting for Bolsonaro. So the only other tidbit I have to offer at this point is that for a period of time, Bolsonaro was not saying anything. He was quiet. But just now, he started to come out, which tells me they're ready to make their moves. So the next week or two is going to be very interesting, and we'll try to do our best to stay on top of this as well. There's something called the Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI. America's PMI, most recently reported, is 44. That is horrible. 50 is like, okay, 51 economy growing, 49 economy shrinking. 44, we have not seen 44 in a very, very, very long time. So while our PMI is 44, guess what Russia's PMI is? 50. Economically, Russia's doing better than we are. So who's hurting who? It's a fair question. A federal judge essentially says parents have no rights over their children. So if anybody was following this, there was a case in Massachusetts. Parents had found out that the school administration was working on changing the gender identity of their children, a teenage daughter, I believe, behind their back. So they had a fit, And they said, you can't do that, our rights, you have to tell us about these things that you're doing. Well, guess what? A federal judge. So I'll just read what he said here. While the court is apprehensive about the alleged policy and the actions of the Ludlow Public Schools with regard to parental notification, it cannot conclude the decision to withhold information. So the judge is saying that it's okay for the schools to continue to lie and conceal from the parents. This is outrageous. I trust those parents are taking them out of that school and hopefully out of the state. But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, when I see stuff like this, I look to my friends, my brothers and sisters, and I just have to ask, can we just sit here and take this? Something has to be done. Done. Not said, done. Nation's top high school withheld National Merit Scholarships. Now understand that National Merit Scholarships are extremely competitive. The top 3% in the nation of students who are in school get these, the top 3%, all right? So what happened? The people in the school decided to withhold the letters. They didn't tell them. You won a national, they didn't tell them. So how do you think that affected their opportunities to get into a good school? Negatively. Turns out these administrators have been doing this for several years. They estimate at least 1,200 students were negatively impacted by what these people did. I got to catch a breath. Let's read the title. Ruby Freeman, body cam admissions revealed in the Georgia ballot scanning scandal. Now, some may remember that early in the fight over the 2020 results in Georgia, there was this black woman named Ruby Freeman, and I believe her daughter, and a couple others, who were involved in this matter where the big boxes of absentee ballots were pulled out from underneath the table after everybody was told to leave because of the lie about a pipe breaking. Okay, so now they cleared out all the watchers and everybody else. Now they could have their fun. And so they scanned and rescanned the same ballots over and over again, right? So here's my theory of the case. It comes down to this. I'll just read this one passage. Ruby Freeman's lawyer since January 2021 is Michael Gottlieb. Well, it turns out that lawyer Gottlieb is also the lawyer and fixer for Hunter Biden and Aaron Rich, the brother of Seth Rich. In other words, Mr. Gottlieb was telling Ms. Freeman what to say and what not to say. Ruby Freeman was beside herself. She didn't know what to do. So we had a little incident at her front door in front of a Ring video camera where the police were present and they had their body cams running. And so she's talking about how she wants to reveal the fraud. Okay, can we understand this now? She didn't know what to do. So you got to give her credit. I don't know where it's going to go. But the point is that she was part of a process where this was, these ballots were taken outside the normal chain of custody. So right off the bat, they're invalid. Yet this happened. So in any event, there's more to hear from her. Also, I just want to quickly mention at the same time, the Georgia State Supreme Court said, oh, by the way, that ruling where you guys came to us and said you didn't have standing, well, maybe we were wrong. You do have standing. So it's very curious that they've got back their standing, and this comes out at the same time. So another case, of stay tuned. Okay, so Governor Lamont declared a further extension to the emergency powers, but you're going to love his excuse. The problem is the last time he made this excuse back in August, he said, oh, I won't do anything else, and he lied. Okay, so, well, he says he's not going to do anything else here. Watch him lie again. But the point was if I can find it, see, in other words, there's federal money to be had from the COVID program, and only by continuing to maintain emergency powers is he supposed to be able to get this extra money. Well, what's that money doing there for COVID response anyway when it's not related to COVID cases? And the COVID cases are so low. And so anyway, it's just another handout, and he's abusing his powers once again, just saying, okay? Meantime, let me get to this one. Pseudoscientific propaganda rules the world, okay? So what we have here is, if I could just find it very quickly, the heart of the problem is this. The COVID-19 industry generates $56 billion of money globally so far. And is it science that people are listening to, or money? All right. And the other important part here is that when you get into these arguments with people over all these issues related to vaccines and the virus, etc., when they react to you, they're reacting in terms of the mainstream media narrative, the narrative. Okay, so they're not tuned into facts. All they do is they listen to the narrative, and that's good enough for them. All right. The other thing quickly was the attacks of the 3 attacks on the power substations in, I believe, Oregon. You know, this is part of a larger pattern. I think 14,000 people lost power. So again, what the hell's going on? And are people really trying to get to the bottom of this? And last, that's right, Connecticut Comedy of the Week, Scott Marks. Now, I may have talked about him before, but he's definitely a player. Okay, he's heavily involved in many of the activities that make up the Connecticut Communists in New Haven, including New Haven Rising. Communism for kids. There you go. Anyway, that's it for now, and I thank you for watching.